know who I am. I am a Nikio. Dade County. Y'all in the city of Dade County. Kings and Queens, give it up for yourself, please. Kings and Queens, can you give it up for yourself, please? Because you could have been somewhere else, but you here with us, so please give it up for yourself. We're gonna do a quick intermission of yesterday. I got a bad news that my little cousin got robbed and killed. I'm thinking the day was gonna be a good day. His dad called my phone crying and say, your little cousin just got murdered. And your song came to me, man, when I got the news from the police that when my son got killed that and got robbed that, I heard Fresh Breath for Life, Nikio. Yeah! And I told my cousin, I say, yo, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be that Pooh had to leave for us to understand our life and the concept and our purpose. Sometimes we gotta go through the storm, and we gonna lose some people that we love through that storm. Sometimes you gonna see that casket, that person you love, and they ain't waking up no more. And it's the reason that you gonna breathe again. You gonna need that purpose in your life. Hey, crowd, I call this song Fresh Breath for Life. Now, if you don't know it, I want y'all to wave one time. Just put your hands up like this. Fresh Breath for Life. We gonna start it off real slow, cause this our art battle. Just say it with me. Fresh Breath for Life. Y'all gonna get it together. I like this wave. Crowd, say it with me. Fresh Breath for Life. Hold on. I like the way how they say that. Say it one more time with me, crowd. Fresh Breath for Life. Y'all gonna get right with me. Because I feel like everybody breathing in this room. Fresh Breath for Life. Y'all not in no casket, you ain't in a hospital. Crowd, we gonna turn it up a little bit. Come on, y'all. Fresh Breath for Life. Hey, crowd, fresh breath. Going through so many roads, I'ma make it right. Going through so many roads, I'ma make it right. Crowd, fresh breath. It ain't that cold to feel good right now. Crowd, say it with me.
Welcome to Trapping Any Day, another dollar peep game. It's your boy Munch. I'm here with my co-host.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Janae, and we both sound so mellow and somber because we tired as fuck.
Been at this gun violence town hall. It started at 6:30.
And it is what time now? It is 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, dog.
10:05 to be exact, and we're sitting here right outside of the Betty T. Ferguson complex in Miami Gardens, where State Representative Chevron Jones and
Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, Dr. Steve Gallen, school board member
Yeah.
Dr. Steve Gallen, another dude by name, I think his name is Josh Merowitz.
Oh, he was a state rep?
He's another state rep. Dr. Osgood. From my old church, Mount Olive Baptist Church.
Oh, shout out to Mount Olive.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, in Broward County. She's also a school board member.
Oh, dope.
And my good friend, best
Friend of the podcast.
You know, my bestie. That's my best friend. That's my best friend.
Oh, that's how I bae.
Go ahead.
Valencia Gunder.
Yeah.
They.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, how you feeling about this gun violence town hall one?
You know what, Munch? So you actually were there longer than me. I was there for 2 hours still, and you were there longer than me. I got there at 7:30, but I think I got some really cool takeaways. From me, though, the main thing were the students. Like, they were the highlight to me. And of course, I missed a lot of the talking heads and some of the state elected officials, but the kids, they really, really impressed me. Like, it was the kid from the 5,000 Role Models who did a speech.
Yeah.
The kids from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, is it?
Yeah.
Who had the unfortunate massacre of their classmates being gunned down by a school shooting, and And the students from New Orleans, the Viking,
Viking Freedom Riders.
yeah, they were amazing.
Shout out to Janae, Najee,
That's
and
their name?
Kayla. Yeah.
Oh, her name's Janae.
Yeah.
Oh, I
so
love her.
Janae
I
didn't
should've met
actually
her.
Janae didn't actually perform tonight.
Oh.
Janae, she ain't one for the fuck shit. That's all I'm gonna say. That's my little homie.
I think I need to meet her then because
yeah, Janae ain't for the fuck shit.
What was your takeaway? Oh, I'm
Najee
sorry.
was there. Kayla was there. And if I'm not mistaken, Josiah is his name. He was there. My takeaway from it is, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Munch, I'm sorry. What were your takeaways?
No, I mean,
I'm sorry I cut you off.
no, it's all good. It's like my takeaway from it is like we waste too much time doing damn intros.
Oh. Tell me, like, what was Chevron's point in his point of view on all of this? Because I missed that part.
Yeah, so like the whole point of the meeting, from where I sat, you know what I'm saying? I came a little bit early, like right before it started, and they got like seated like Congresswoman. Like literally, I walked in the room, shook everybody's hand, I turned around, Congresswoman was in my face. You know what I mean? And all the media folk was like trying to snap the picture, of course. You know, Greg Reed, some of the guys. You know, you got to shout out Greg Reed, who was there, and some other media professionals that was there. But at the same time, what I took away from it is like, man, we come to these meetings, man, like it's too long. Like 4 hours. I know that this work that we do it needs to be that way, but like this shit sometimes be too long. You know what I'm saying? Like it shouldn't take and what I mean by too long, I mean like it takes too long to get through the opening statements.
To get to the meat of what we there to talk about.
For.
Yeah.
You know, I understandably, you know, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson and Representative Chevron Jones, because they hosted it, I felt like they should have done opening statements. But I felt like to go across the whole panel was like, God damn, it's a bit much. But what I did find interesting about that was that every last one of them pretty much gave like their statement of where they sit. So like, of course, we had 2 school board members there. That was Dr. Steve Gallen, District 1 school board member for Miami-Dade County, and we had Dr. Osgood, who was in District 5 for Broward County Public Schools. The reason why Josh pretty much was there because he went to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
Oh, wow.
And he was, you know, in '99, he was like a former student, but how he was compelled to act and how he doesn't so much identify with gun violence, but when it hit his front door, how he has been compelled to make change. And just 5 months prior, 6 months prior, he was actually trying to make legislation happen, and not knowing that his phone, you know, his he's an alumni
be knocking
at
on his
school,
front door,
he'd be knocking on
like
his front door, and actually he shared a story of how his when they put the schools, his school will put Parkland and the surrounding schools on lockdown. One of the teachers who was protecting his child, her daughter actually lost her life. You know, so you know it was like,
wait, so his children go to Stoneman
No,
Douglas?
his daughter, his basically his son. He has a toddler. His son is in a daycare nearby, and of course, you know when they do that for one school, they put the whole school on lockdown. So when they put the school on lockdown or whatever, he found out that the teacher who had his son, her daughter, who actually was a student there, lost her life. So he was like, nah, I got to do something. So
you're like, you protected my son, but you couldn't even go protect your kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn, that's deep.
That's deep, right? And then Chevron, this is supposed to be this is a continuing conversation. They made it apparent this is a continuing conversation. The next meeting will be at Brownsville. I thought that was very interesting because the students at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas brought up the fact that there were clear book bags, that they had to bring clear book bags. Now, anybody who knows, I talked to the inner city kids, and I know for a fact at Brownsville they instituted some of the same policies when there was gun violence in the community, around the community. They didn't want them to bring in the guns in the schools. But it was a lot of good points made. But that was one of my biggest takeaways, was that we spend too much time, a lot of times, just like on opening statements. You feel me? And instead of getting to the meat of the situation, and we had the Viking Freedom Riders there, who was from the inner city. We had other 5,000 children now, 5,000 role models that were there, but they didn't get, like, not one child got a chance to speak until about 8:30.
And that's 2 hours in.
That's 2 hours in. So then you figure, okay, how are these children gonna do their homework? how these children, like parents, they got to go to work, so they gonna take some of their children. So the room started to clear out around about 9 o'clock. It started to clear out, but the people who did stay, we were able to, get somewhere, and it's still.
And that's when they did the Q&A.
The Q&A, you know what I'm saying? And it was towards the end where the kids really got to speak and really say their piece. And that's,
and you
that's
want the bulk of the crowd to hear that.
They hear that.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things, like, for me, is I feel like, we take a lot of times, and this is coming from someone, who has done these meetings myself, and not to toot my own horn, but I've done these meetings myself.
And I was in your meetings, like.
So I understand.
They go like.
Yeah, like, we can't, like, one of the things I'm big on is wasting the people's time. Like, I'm like a huge, like, proponent of wasting people's time. Like, I don't like that, none whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? If I don't have to waste people's time, I won't.
Yeah.
Even if, like, sometimes we did start an hour late, but if we started an hour late, best believe I was conscious, and I was always telling people, like, look, it's 8:30. I know y'all, I'm gonna get y'all out of here by 9. Or if I started the meeting at 7:30, knowing it was an hour late and we had already had people there, look, we gonna close this at 8:30, 9 o'clock. Period. Because I understand, you don't want to waste people's time. And not saying that the Congresswoman and them didn't have that in mind, but that's something that we have to always be mindful of. Even the people who just want to make statements sometimes. Like we don't like I know y'all want to make y'all statements and y'all want to make y'all voice heard, and it's talking heads. That's what y'all do. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't always be trying to make a statement or trying to always be heard.
Yeah, like, it's some people in there who really want answers and solutions, and they're trying to be informed. They don't want to hear you stand on your soapbox, so you could have a platform in that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm so surprised that you said this.
Plugging cats in, and I'm one of the people who probably got the most experience in the room, but I will opt every time not to speak. Because I'm like, well, today was about the kids.
Yeah, it wasn't your time to be. It
wasn't my time.
The guest speaker.
Even like, we had kids who we brought up, like, we just brought up from like Viking Freedom Riders was part of those kids, right? Who came and who came up there with us to DC. So they were a group of kids. They asked me in the beginning, "Are you gonna speak?" I say, "No, this is y'all platform.
Like, you need to speak.
You need to speak. I'm not saying a word."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're giving y'all the platform. I don't feel like every time I need to speak somewhere. What I do feel like, I need to bring my shit back. Make sure that y'all have that platform, in a sense. But not to toot my own horn, that's just, my personal opinion is just like, we spend so much time, trying to, make our statements known sometimes that it's not really needed.
Yeah.
All the time to make our statements,
No, I totally agree. And I'm like, when you started saying that about the time, because when we were off the mic, I was like, damn, Munch, like, these meetings got to get a little bit more effective so you can keep people engaged. And we got to figure out ways as a community, like, to get this information out there. But let's do it in a time where we could be concise and considerate of the people, like you said, who got to go to work in the morning and who got, like, kids who got homework or whatever. But for me, I was like, the greatest takeaway that I got from it and the coolest thing for me was seeing the kids being so engaged. Like, there was a student from the 5,000 Role Models who gave a poem and more like, or a speech about, his experiences living as a young black man and dealing with gun violence and police engagement, and how he fears for his life, and he's not sure if a police would gun him down or if somebody who looks like him would gun him down. So to hear those realities coming from, like, teenagers and how engaged they are, and they spoke so well. I was sitting there when the kids were speaking. I was like, God damn, they got me feeling some sort of way. Like, I need to go back and brush up on my public speaking. Like, it's the young lady from Stoneman Douglas.
She was.
Oh my! She was amazing.
We gonna have to run that back on.
Yes, we definitely gotta let y'all hear her, because she was talking about legislation, the first what's the Second Amendment?
How the first Amendment has been changed. Like, everybody talks about the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, the right to bear arms.
The Bill of Rights, just period. Just the first 10 bills are, like, untouchable because they're, like, the founding rights of the country, right? So, like, these are things that really formed the country. Was those first 10 was the Bill of Rights, and how the Bill of Rights are pretty much untouchable. But if there's amendments that are made to, like, she was talking about how amendments have been made to free speech, and if that amendment is that, there aren't protections under the law, under the free speech, under the First Amendment for obscene for obscene language.
Yeah.
If you use obscene language. So if those protections are not made for the First Amendment, then we should be able to make amendments to the Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms.
Yeah.
And she
broke that shit down.
Yeah. So and then another thing she also brought up was that how we need to be educated on the fact, voters need to be educated, or people in general need to be educated to the fact that Florida is a closed primary state.
Yeah.
And the implications or the results of that, like what happens in a state like, for instance, this past year, and it was very personal to me because I'm one of those people. I knew about it being closed primary, but I didn't give a fuck. Like, I'm independent. I don't want to be Democrat or Republican.
I found that out the hard way. So when she was saying that, and the thing is, like, I don't even know if she's a senior in high school, but I knew that about Florida, and I found out the hard way when the Obama election in high school, when I was in college, and I couldn't vote in a primary because I registered as independent. And immediately I re-registered as a Democrat, so that would never happen again. But a lot of people aren't informed on that, and she was speaking about the importance of being engaged and voting for people who have your interests, and voting for people who are supported by groups who aren't against your best interests. Like, this young lady was breaking stuff down. She was talking about, like, the clear book bags at her school. It was another young man from Stoneman, Douglas, was talking about being racially profiled at school and his experiences living there, and how he wants to stand in solidarity with the kids in the not black community, but in inner city communities who face gun violence all the time. The kids tonight, and the Viking Freedom Riders, that poem was amazing, and them breaking down their experiences in gun violence. Like, the kids tonight were the superstars to me. They were who I wanted to hear from, personally. Of course, I wanted to hear from the elected officials, but the kids, I wanted to know what their input was, and they definitely showed out tonight. Like you said, I wish they had a chance to speak a little bit earlier when the crowd was way engaged and it was way more people there. Exactly. Not saying that the room was empty, because it was always a good flow of people, but while everybody's energy was high, like, I wish they could have had that platform then when it first kicked off, so people could have really taken away what they had to say.
Yeah, I can agree with that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, the kids definitely was a takeaway. That's definitely what
kill us for going in.
Nah, Chevron ain't gonna kill us because it's positive feedback. Like, my thing
Chevron,
is,
we love you, and it's no shade to him or to Congresswoman Wilson. It's something that me and you talk about all the time about meetings, and we be like, man, like, because we both work crazy, and we try to make it to these meetings, and people who don't attend these don't know that we be here for like sometimes 2-3 hours. Like,
and it'd be like, and then you gotta go back. Like, for me, my thing is, like, tomorrow I gotta get up, I gotta put a stage up, I gotta go edit some videos, I gotta go do some other work, I gotta do this. Like, I'm thinking about how much I gotta do because I went to this meeting,
Exactly.
So like, and that's the thing, like, that I be thinking about, but that's like a selfish thing when you think about it. But at the end of the day, it'd be like, come on, dog, just be considerate of my time, like,
can we figure out a way to concise this to 2 hours?
To 2 hours, and I know, and then even then, like, I know y'all control the narrative. I know how that works, and it's not bad. And then they said this is a continuing conversation. So for me, like I said, my takeaway is that it did take a little long to kind of like get the kids involved, but I understood that this is a continuing conversation. I just would hope that in the next few meetings, like, for instance, when we go down to Brownsville, Liberty City, where I'm from, you know what I'm saying, like, where people not gonna sit there all night long. I know right. If you start at 6:30, they gonna show up at 7:30. They gonna be out the door by 8:30. And they don't, and I know it's a good and a bad thing, like, right? So it's like, how bad do you want to solve this gun violence issue? But also, it's like, come on, like, some people, like, you can't fault them always for not wanting to stay with, hey, I gotta go, and I'm just being selfish, I just want to go home. Like, a lot of people in my area, in my community, like, they work the night shift.
But it ain't about being selfish. Even if you don't work the night shift, if you just worked 8-9 hours at your job, you're tired. Like, you're mentally, you can't take so much more, and you're trying to still be an engaged citizen. I just think that I think there's a way for our meetings to be more effective, so we can have more people engaged more consistently. Because if I'm a first time, or if I'm new to being civically engaged, my first meeting is like 3 or 4 hours, I may be apprehensive to come to the next one, because I'm like, I gotta consider, do I have 3 or 4 hours to sit in a meeting.
But like I say, the credit to get, just to give them their credit, right? So that time, those 2 hours, I can honestly say, like, we were learning every aspect of like where they sat, like from the state rep. Like they gave personal stories, but at the same time, like even like Chevron state rep Chevron Jones credit, right? He gave his statement about how like he went up there to fight for us. And what did our communities look like equity for black communities, and how he felt just like we felt, like, our kids didn't get no healing, no trauma, no none of that, and they deal with it on the regular every day, but they didn't get it. So it was interesting to hear their perspective and not feel like it was like, I didn't feel like they were just talking points.
Yeah,
usually when you go and you hear politicians speak, most of the time you feel like they're talking points, but it really felt like, and that was another reason why I didn't feel like the need to speak, because I felt like my people who was supposed to represent me in my community, they actually they shared the same sentiment. Yeah. Or they were in the general area. They wasn't, you know what I'm saying? They didn't necessarily have all the bits and pieces where I can go talk to them specifically on a personal level myself. But they were, later. But they were spot on as far as like some of the issues. Like Dr. Osgood brought up one of the main points that I always talk about, and Chevron brought up this point too about like, they're not getting the guns, from the store. Let's just be real. They getting them illegally. Our community gets guns illegally. So when you talk about gun control, it's a different set of factors, right? And then Dr. Osgood talked about how, in our community, our kids don't necessarily have a mother and father. They go to who they fit, whoever can take them for the night. Yeah. And they bounce around from house to house to house, and that's a real big thing, because when I talk about gun violence, majority of the kids is committing these crimes. The majority of the shooters that I run into is people who are who basically they live in these what I call group homes. They're like unofficial group homes. You get what I'm saying? And they don't necessarily, like I say, have a mother and father. So if you really, they're like unknowns. Yeah. You feel me? And they walk around and they drifters. You know what I'm saying? And then next thing you know, they murderers. Wow. You know what I mean? So I felt like tonight was very, like, as far as like the talking points, was very productive, because it was like, okay, at least people get it. Yeah. At least people know what they have a good frame of reference to keep the conversation going. And then saying, it made me happy to know that Frederica's always on point. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But for her to be on point and saying, okay, after we leave here, we going to Brownsville. And if I know a lot of our issues in our community is gun violence, and our gun violence is not in the school, it's in the community. So for her to say that this is an ongoing conversation, like it's not stopping. It's not stopping in Miami Gardens. We going to the city too to go talk to them kids. Yeah. To talk to, you know what I'm saying? And my only wish is, like I said, talk to those kids. Yeah. Understand those kids. But she did bring up a good point in that, is that when she went to Brownsville the other day, she said she had 50 pastors, she had three parents, and she had about 60 kids. And
she did tell that story.
And that 60 kids was all, of course, had to be there, because they was in 5,000 role models, and it was boys. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, three kids, three parents that came. 2 of them was from the same family. Yeah, she said it was
a couple. Yeah. And I was like, wow. But I mean, we see that all the time.
But that's the thing that we have to. It's a reality. It's a reality, and it's something that. But that goes back to how many you have to then investigate. How many of those parents, not to point it out, but how many of them parents on Section 8? How many parents actually was at work?
Tripping ain't dead.
How many of them parents? How many of them kids is group home kids? Let's just be honest. Like, how many of them kids is those unofficial group home kids?
But Munch, we got to speak to a bigger issue too, where it's like our communities have different complex structures. It's not a mom and dad. It's sometimes it's grandma's auntie. Like you
That
said, it's a
too.
group home. So sometimes it may not be a parent there to come to a meeting. Whereas if you are in an affluent area or high income area where it is a mom and a dad and a more solid family structure, they can't come to PTA meetings. They can come to community meetings. So I think as a community, we got to stand in the gap. And Frederica Wilson, she said that, like, no, Dr. Gallen said that. He was like, back in the day when the family didn't step in, the school didn't, the church didn't, when the church didn't, the community stepped in. So we got to get back to that. And even bringing it back, like, we don't want to bash the meeting because it's a lot, like you said, it's a lot of information to break down about laws. So sometimes it's hard to compress all of that. I wish we could figure out a way to do it, you know?
I think like the one thing we probably would say is, and I don't want to speak for you, but I know for me, I would say on the opening statements part.
Yeah, if we can cut some fat.
If we can cut a lot. Like, I understand y'all have y'all positions. Y'all want to let people know where y'all from, which y'all doing. But let's try to cut down on the opening statements so much so that when we can get down to the meat and cheese, like, you know what I'm saying? Of like we know, like, we can learn who you are later.
Through what you saying, I feel
through
like
the dialogue.
Yeah.
If you tell me my name is Rep. Chevron Jones, I'm not gonna listen to, and that's not to say Chevron took a long time because I was timing it. Chevron only probably talked like between all of them, they took about three. Like, I think the Congresswoman was probably the longest. And Josh, the other state rep was a long time because he shared a few stories, his personal stories about Parkland. But everybody else, they was probably under like that 5-minute mark. Mm-hmm. But then you figure it was about 7 people on that panel?
35 minutes, 40 minutes.
So that's 35, 40 minutes.
Almost an hour.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's
so even if they all took 10 minutes to speak, you feel me? That's 60 minutes easy. That's an hour easy.
Yeah.
So and then remember the UTD spoke.
Yeah, and it's not just a panel speaking. There's other people
UTD
coming up speaking.
The school resource officer spoke. You feel me? So, and I think was it anybody else that spoke? I don't want to forget anybody, but I don't think it was. But you get what I'm saying? So you figure we didn't spent a whole hour just on introductions.
Yeah.
Like, literally, by the time you get there, what I was saying, we just getting started.
And I was like, wait, what? It's 7:40. What you mean you just getting started?
The kids think, we have something, we saying we want the kids to be involved. Let the kids run the meeting. I think they will. Like, give them a few talking points. I think they got the capacity to run this meeting. Especially, and grab answers. The kids was the truth tonight.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The kids was going to speak.
They had solutions. They ready to act. They ready to turn 18 so they could vote. And they getting it. They doing their thing. Munch, I think that we should probably let the people hear some of these highlights. You got some that they could hear and just kind of put it in there for them? Because I think y'all really need to hear some of these things that some of the people were saying, especially the kids and Congresswoman.
Yeah, we got a few things. Check the Trapping Ain't Dead podcast page. IG and the Facebook. We'll definitely be posting some updates between the night, tomorrow, and the weekend. You know what I mean? We'll actually drop the episode maybe sooner than later.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank y'all for rocking with us. Munch, how can the people find you on social media?
All Like Minds Media, ALLLIKEMIND as dog SMEDIA. Machiavelli, Machiavelli is at the @ symbol MAKAVELLI _MUNCH. That's Machiavelli Munch. Janae, how they can find you?
Wait, I'm laughing because I'm like, did you have to think about it?
No. I was thinking about why I was saying the MAKA. That's why I was like.
I be wanting to, when you be saying that, I be wanting to say they call me the METHOD man. I be wanting to spell that out. Y'all can find me. I'm only pushing my blog right now. I got to get them numbers up, and I want y'all to know about it. So you guys can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and Snapchat at Hilo News. So search HYLONEWS, and you could go to my website as well and check out my new content articles. We cover community events, politics, social issues, commentary on the Black community in South Florida. And you can find me on HiloNewsMiami.com. This has been great. Thank you so much, Munch, for letting us do this tonight.
And we out, bitch.
Ow. Bye, y'all.
That we have each other, and but that we have each other, yeah. We will rise, oh, we'll rise, oh, we'll rise, and I'll rise up, rise like the day, I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I will rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, we'll rise like the day, we'll rise up, we'll rise unafraid, we'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you.
Tyler Scott, he commanded the attention of this entire room, as well as doing a great song lyrically. Fifth grader Tyler Scott, and he's wearing the tie for the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence program, so we know he has a bright future.
I want to thank Congresswoman Frederica Wilson for everything that she does inside and outside the community. We truly appreciate you. It's because of you why I'm wearing this tie, and it has truly changed my life. I'm in the 10th grade. I attend Miami Lakes Educational Center, and it is truly an honor to speak on behalf of the 5,000 Role Models. I first want to start off, because this is gun violence in the community, I will talk about schools secondly, but first I want to talk about overall gun violence. I went to a 5,000 Role Models field trip about a month ago at the Dolphin Stadium. I got to meet with law enforcement. I sat right next to a police officer. I shook their hands. I ate lunch with them, and I asked them questions. I realized that they too are human, out there trying to protect us and keep us safe. I realized that not all cops are bad. However, there are still people in law enforcement that abuse their powers in a negative way. There are still police officers taking innocent black lives, from Trayvon Martin to Tamir Rice to Eric Gardner to Sandra Bland to Freddie Gray and much more. Their lives are a testament to the times that we are living in, a testament that we cannot ignore. It seems as if almost every day there's another officer killing an African American. I feel as if we are an endangered species, but I know our story doesn't end like that. I know there is a positive force filled with hope, true justice, and love which surround us every day, protecting us and guiding us into the right direction, and I know everything will be just fine. As I wake up in the morning and go to school each and every day, I realize my life is surrounded by education. School is the place I receive something that cannot be taken away from me, which is knowledge. School is the place where my dreams and ambitions seems closer and closer every day. It's the place where I meet friends, the place where I grow and develop, the place I've been since I was 5 years old and I'm now 16 with a loving mother that says love you and doesn't know if I will make it home for the next hour or two. It's the place where I should feel safe. School is the place where I shouldn't have to feel like I may lose my life, when all I want to do is learn, get good grades, and make my family proud. However, in Parkland, 17 people had the same hopes as I did, and they lost their lives. I think we can all agree that it was a shock how close that mass shooting was to our backyards. We could hear about these shootings in other places, but sometimes our mind always has this notion that it can never happen to us. And God forbid it can. One thing that really gets to me is that after the Sandy Hook incident, which occurred in 2012 and killed 20 children and 6 adults, there have been 63 school shootings since then, and 11 in 2018 alone. We are in April. And the problem isn't just shootings, it's fights. Fights that turn violent. Like yesterday on the news, it showed a kid who got bullied and started fighting. The next clip of him was in a hospital bed with his nose broken. This was yesterday. So I asked my fellow role models, with the gun violence occurring, if you see something, say something, but don't forget that the same goes for bullying and the fights that occur in our schools as well. We are the future. We lead and live by example. Never feel hopeless. Never feel like you can't do anything in these tragic situations. You can educate others. Preach others the right way, the way of brotherhood and sisterhood, the way of coming together as a community like we are now, the way of justice and peace, the way of Martin Luther King fought for, the way that Congressman John Lewis continues to fight for, and the way that Congresswoman Frederica Wilson peacefully fights for every single day. It is up to us to fight too. Fight peacefully and fight for what's right. We can no longer live in fear. We can no longer leave our home and not make it back to our mothers and fathers. We can no longer let the people who died innocent lives die in vain. The time for change is now. Repeat after me. We are one. We are one. We are one. We are one. God bless.
My name is Brandon Descent, and I joined everyone here today to intercommunicate new ideas and solutions that we may have to help reduce gun violence, not only in schools, but in our communities. And to ensure that we're focusing all the money and resources that we have into areas that will, in the long run, benefit communities regardless of racial majority or social standing. I wrote down a few solutions that I jotted down. So in my opinion, one of the main problems that we're facing in terms of this issue is conflict resolution. I believe that we should see more conflict resolution forums and programs for our youth. Like with us, I'm saying that I'm not the youth, but well, as you mentioned earlier, in Douglas, there are a lot of police officers that are they're supposed to be protecting us, but in terms of me and Kai, we have both faced mild discrimination or racial profiling. I got to school, I woke up a little late, and I got to school like 3 minutes before the bell rung. So I was wearing gym shorts and a black shirt. So yeah, I looked like a bum. But that's like a lot of people at Douglas, to be honest. But like, so I got to class, then I took the hall pass to go use the restroom. On my way to the restroom, one of the cops stops me, and he goes, "Whoa, wait a minute there." And he was like, "Is that how we come dressed to school?" And things like that. And he kept like nagging me. I was raised not to respect police officers, not to walk away from a cop. That's how you get shot. But being that it was early, and being that I was, I didn't really have breakfast, and my bladder was about to burst out of my, body. I wanted to, end the conversation as soon as possible. So instead of, continuing the conversation with the officer who had a problem with my my outfit for some reason and my hair, which I know it's a bit much, he told me to not walk away from him and all this. And I turned around, as well he was nagging me, I turned around and go, like, you don't even, explicit, you know me. And being that he was there to protect us in school, being that I was a student in the school, he wasn't gonna, do anything to me. But if that conversation took place anywhere outside the gates of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, I probably wouldn't be here speaking to you today. So yeah, conflict resolution, like that's the main thing that we need to teach our youth, how to resolve conflicts, whether you find out that your girlfriend or boyfriend is, messing around with another guy, or if someone's talking smack, to resolve the issue without using your fists or bullets. Attacking poverty. And a lot of inner cities, poverty, I believe, is the #1 source of gun violence. So I believe that even though we have been waging a war against poverty for years to come, I think that now that people outside of our communities, people that, like in Parkland and whatnot, now that their bubble has been burst, I believe that I'm confident in the fact that they will help, us achieve the same goal, and that's to live a prosperous life. And the last thing I have to say is, we want more security, but we don't want to become a military state. And that we need to find a way to work with the police, and more importantly, we need to find a common ground for the police to work with us. And we must all come to a common ground in terms of how we interact with the police. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
And we thank you, Brandon. Brandon is a student at Stoneman Douglas, and I'm quite sure Representative Michaelis heard from you, as well as Dr. Osgood from the school board. I also like to recognize, before we introduce the next student, Katrina Wilson. She's a candidate for Money Gardens Council. Seat 2 is with us this evening. Thank you. We'll see you at the back. We are going to next hear from Ms. Taya Amoy and Robert. She's also a student at Stoneman Douglas. And we are ready for you, okay?
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tia Amoy Roberts. I'm a junior at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. I'm 17 years old. I'd first like to thank Representative Jones for personally inviting me. So I really wouldn't be here without him. And thank you, Congresswoman Wilson, for fighting for us every single day, of your career. I never expected to be in this position right now. I never expected on February 13th that the next day would change my life forever. I never expected on Valentine's Day at 2 o'clock that my life would be changed forever. I never expected that when I left that day, because I left early to go to Broward College North Campus, that there were people that I saw that day that I would never see again, except for at their viewing. And so, being here today is difficult, and it will continue to be difficult, but I will continue to push through it because I know that I am here for a reason, and I know that I'm advocating for a cause that people have been advocating about for years. I know that I am here to ensure that our young people, including myself, and young people in future generations do not have to worry about going to school and not being able to come home afterwards, about going to church and not being able to come home afterwards, about going out to the corner store and not being able to come home. The common denominator is a firearm. This is not only about school shootings. Shootings happen everywhere. This is not only about mass shootings, because shootings happen on a day-to-day basis in communities of color. And so, there are things that we need to put in place to make sure that shootings don't happen anywhere. We need tougher background checks, that's a factor. We need a ban on accessories that make semi-automatic weapons functionally automatic. That's a factor. We need to broaden the definition of an assault-style weapon. A lot of times, these conversations that we try to have really get down into semantics and we're no longer talking about the larger issue. So let's have a solid definition of what it means to own an assault rifle. And do we really need that specific right? A lot of people assume that the Bill of Rights is untouchable, that it cannot be regulated to ensure that we are safe. There are restrictions on the First Amendment. You cannot have obscene speech. That is not protected by the First Amendment. And so, if we can have restrictions on the first, we can have restrictions on the second, as long as they keep our people safe. As long as they ensure that only law-abiding, responsible individuals who are not a threat to themselves or others, only law-abiding citizens should have the right to bear arms in this country. I was going to speak on arming teachers. I think it's been adequately covered, more than adequately covered. And I think that the conversation needs to be broader than school security. We were given clear backpacks at Douglas recently, and not only has it not made us feel any safer, it hasn't effectively, done any or addressed any issue upon gun violence. There is nothing about that measure that adequately keeps our students safe. Because you can still hide a weapon in a clear backpack. And so let's talk about addressing the concerns of why these students want to bring weapons to school. Let's have outreach programs. Let's have mentoring programs like this program that was represented today, to make sure that kids not only feel safe, around adults, but feel safe around each other. These are all things that we need to talk about. We also need to talk about voting. I think voting is the cornerstone of democracy, and we are not taking advantage of it adequately. We need to be educated on our state and the way that our state functions. A lot of people don't know that Florida is a closed primary election state. And that means, sorry, I have an exact definition. That means that only voters who are registered members of a political party can vote for respective candidates or nominees in primary elections. And so a lot of people miss out on primary elections because when they register as independents, or they don't register at all. And it's important to be educated on these things. Be educated on the candidates themselves. Do not vote for somebody simply because of their party affiliation. Vote for them because of what they represent. Do you agree with what they advocate for and what their history of voting has been? Do you agree with the institutions that fund them? All of these things are important to take into account. It's important to vote in every single election. The presidential election is not the only election that matters, even though it really, really does matter. And we really need to uplift each other and uplift the community and uplift our society. Gun violence is an epidemic, and it is plaguing our society. It is a disease that is infecting the body of our society and of our people. And we need to rid our society of the disease that is gun violence. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello everybody, my name is Christopher Powell. I am a current student at Marjory Stoneman Douglas and a survivor of a mass shooting that took the lives of 17 people and injured many others. First, I'd like to thank Congresswoman Wilson for having me here and Dr. Osgood for having me. It's a pleasure speaking. Well, first, you know, living in the neighboring Parkland city of Coral Springs, I lived a life that was somewhat sheltered, you know, where my only fear was of my parents, you know, if I didn't get to school on time. I didn't wake up worrying like many others across the country about losing my life in school to gun violence or, you know, any other places like across America. I now, after the shooting on February 14th, I now have a different sense of security. As the weeks go by, the voices of change become louder. Students right here in Miami have been asking to be heard. And the same goes for Chicago, LA, and many other cities in America. Our voices are now adding to their voices, demanding change. Something needs to happen. Young people must be a part of these discussions. Our lives cannot be traded while you talk politics. We need our leaders to work together to develop actionable plans to impact gun violence in our communities. And I think I have 4 solutions. I think the first thing is common sense gun control. I want it to be harder to get a weapon, especially out the hands of people who show signs that they don't need to be anywhere near a gun. The shooter, Nicholas Cruz, he was posting on social media. He was posting about, you know, all these guns, killing animals. People knew about this kid, and the FBI knew about it, and nobody did anything. And now he took the lives of my 17 fellow classmates and injured many others. And I think people need to be more aware of what's happening. You know, what's happening in Miami and, you know, in other parts, you know, other parts of America. 7 teens and children are killed with guns on average every single day in America. You know, people with mental health issues, our parents, our brothers, our sisters, and friends. You know, yes, we can Baker Act people, but many mental health institutions sometimes don't get to the root of people's problems and end up treating everyone the same. You know, we need more money that can help people with mental health issues in better ways than just locking them up. And my school, Douglas, we recently got clear backpacks, and like Tia said, that doesn't help. That doesn't do anything, because a student, say, he can just hide it, and you can just put a hoodie over, say, a pistol, and, you know, just hide it in his backpack. It doesn't change anything. You can only do so much with clear backpacks. It's the same goes for, you know, metal detectors too. You know, sure, you know, that prevents kids from bringing like weapons to school, but what about kids who are bringing drugs like weed and, you know, vaping in the bathrooms? I feel like that just creates more violence inside the schools, you know. And well, I think, well, first I lost, you know, on February 14th, I lost my friend Helena that day, and, you know, she was probably the first friend I made freshman year. She was so bright, on the road to being a doctor. She had a 4.0 GPA, straight A student, and she was in my Spanish class. And I really think there should be change. I don't want her life or the thousands of other children's lives to be continued to be lost when it's preventable. Yeah.
It's sad that throughout history,
we've had to pay the price for freedom, but we did.
And we still are.
Armed with nonviolence, motivated by justice, desperate for equality.
It didn't matter if it was by bus, by feet, or by the glide of a pen.
We followed the footsteps of freedom. Yes, we stumbled, we ran, we crawled.
we found ways to keep moving forward.
Nothing can stop us, not rainy days.
Hatred.
Murder.
We fight for the freedom to be free of injustice. We don't just tell stories.
We listen. Stories of a king fighting for our rights.
Of a queen who's teaching us how to write.
Learning from the past.
From a rose who parked her roots into a bus seat.
To people who kept cool under hatred's heat.
We're inspired by the fire that burns in their hearts.
So we write fire on pages.
hoping we can live in a world that's black and white like the covers of composition notebooks.
Scribbling in sins, hoping for forgiveness. Freedom walkers.
Walking city blocks so segregation can stop.
Freedom riders. Who knew certain people would rather see them riding ambulance instead of buses.
Freedom riders. With pens we write, we fight stereotypes to make futures bright. The Viking freedom riders, writing our stories, writing the spines of history, made by people who refuse to let racism walk all over them.
Students, a different type of freedom fighters who didn't see the world in black and white.
We saw the world's rainbow. We are the Viking freedom riders.
Fall in the footsteps of those who can't move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you for my students from Mighty Oaks Senior High School.
My name is Najee. I'm from Mighty Oaks Senior High School. I'm a Viking freedom rider. This is my 4th year as a Viking freedom rider, actually. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on the whole gun violence issue. Personally, I feel as if one of the main points of gun violence is that the kids are not being heard, and even when they are being heard, they're being heard by the wrong people, and they're just being pushed out, or the adults that they're turning to are not making it better. They're making it worse for them, or doubting them, or saying that you're this or you're that. And when you put kids in situations like that, it tends to mess with them mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all those type of things. So they do things out of pocket because they don't have anyone to turn to. When you turn to your leader and they tell you that you're this or you're that and it's negative about it, it just, of course, is going to turn into negativity within you. So that's my point.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Francois, obviously from Miami Northern Senior High. And I think one of the issues with gun violence, specifically school shooting, is a lot of school shooters come with revenge on their minds. Like they come to the schools because they had a past of being bullied or targeted. And I think it's because kids don't realize that there's a thin line between bullying and teasing. Yes, it's, you know, fun to crack jokes with your friends and, you know, have your inside jokes and stuff, but, you know, some people are sensitive, and people, I think some people don't realize that teasing is a form of bullying. So a lot of times kids get targeted and the frustration and anger builds up, and then they start taking matters into their own hands, and it's not productive. And I think a solution to that is educating kids the multiple forms of bullying and showing them that how to be more kind-hearted and be more, you know, nice, because you don't know what someone's going through. Like, you only know what someone shows you. A lot of people hide behind masks, so when you're teasing or targeting, you might be hitting insecurities and not even knowing it. So I feel like we need to educate our kids on that, and it could lead to less violence.
One of the points that I was thinking more was, one of the solutions I was thinking about for school systems is teaching mindfulness to students and also having peer counselors, because even though it is great to talk to adults, it's also better when you're able to connect with students that are your age, and also students who are equipped with the mentality to help another peer. Because sometimes it's better when you talk to someone that's your same age than someone that's older than you, because they can understand the same point of view that you're in as well. So I thought that would be a good solution to put in for that solution for gun violence in schools.
Thank you, Steve.
You always hear people say, let us start a conversation. We need to start a conversation. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to scream. So that's what people say. So let me say to you tonight, this is the start of a conversation. We didn't come here for this one time. So we have a sign-up sheet, and we are creating a task force. And we're going to take this conversation to different parts of Dade County. Our next stop will be at Antioch Baptist Church in Brownsville. We have a school called Brownsville Middle School. That's a problem. It's a problem. community with me. The students were supposed to be there. Their parents were supposed to be there. The only children who were there were the members of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence, and there were 60 of them. And when I said I'd like for all of the parents to stand, 3 people stood of a school of 600 middle school children. So we bought all of the boys' pants, all of the boys' shirts, all of the boys' socks, and all of the boys' sneakers. We have a luncheon where all of the boys of Brownsville Middle School will be attending the end of May. This is a school district, this is a school that's in a community where the people are poor that feed into that community. And you talk about what causes gun violence is poverty. And 2/3 of the children in that school are repeating a grade. So they're behind already. So they're gonna, at this luncheon, we've had these luncheons over and over. It's called Pastors and Principals. But we've never concentrated on a particular school. But after going there that day and seeing those children struggling to come by themselves, not one parent, and these 2 parents were from one home. So when this list comes along, I should have passed it out before most of the people left. When this list comes around, please sign up. Because the next time we have a conversation about violence, about guns, about youth in the community, follow us across this community. Follow us. Keep up with us. Keep your ear to social media when you hear we're going to do this again.